hijos de puta!
What? Did it again. Did it again.
Hands to this bitch if you gang bang.
Killing is my business.
You ain't doing bitch, motherfucker! What a good to my body, you know.
What to do, party people? It's your boy Lex, back at it again with another crazy reaction today. What we finna check out right now is a little controversial, but I'm super interested in the highs and lows of society and what's going on in the world. So let's just go ahead and find out what's going on in certain areas that you're gonna want to think twice about visiting. Speaking of visiting though, I appreciate, and I really mean it, I appreciate y'all visiting the channel, tuning back, and to all my subscribers, man, I appreciate y'all. If you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly encourage you to go down below and smash that subscribe button for your weekly dose of vibes. I react to the most craziest, most entertaining stuff on the internet, as well as produce my own content that you're also not gonna wanna miss. So again, big double salute for all y'all. I appreciate you tapping in, but let's go ahead, let's get it. Yay!
Jamaica, plagued by gang activity. It has a population of almost 3 million and high levels of violent crime, including sexual assault and government corruption. It is the first on this list of nations with the highest crime rates. It has a crime rate of 67.42 per 100,000 people.
Jamaica, hey, say nothing, man. No wonder they included Jamaica, because Jamaica is without a doubt one of the places that had the most intense street fights imaginable in its history. Until this day, there's a lot of gang violence. One of the main differences here that these gangs don't describe themselves as traditional gangs. They're called posses in Jamaica. Like, don't even try to compare the Jamaican posses to gang life like the US, because a lot of that gang-related stuff that's been going on in Jamaica is fairly closely to that of a war zone, which is some real Batman shit. You done know, as they say in Jamaica, fam.
The Jamaican police are said to be understaffed and have few resources, particularly Spanish Town, some of Kingston, and Montego Bay are the most dangerous areas according to travel advisories.
Kingston, Spanish Town, Portmore, when you know, you know. Those Jamaican thugs from back in the day were insanely ruthless and admittedly also outrageously careless, pulling up without no head protection and nothing, even though this clearly resembles a freaking war zone. No joke thing, you get me? Jamaica, different.
Brazil. It has one of the highest rates of violent crime in the world, ranking 9th overall. The homicide rate in Brazil was 23.6 per 100,000 people in 2020, while it has previously reached a high of 30.8. Because organized crime has continuously risen and conflict between rival groups is frequent, it is Brazil's worst problem.
Brazil, another place that's arguably in the top 3, I would say, as far as gang violence. The favelas are the notorious places where a lot of the gangs got their strongholds, and it's a completely different ball game compared to what the media shows you about gangs in a place like America. Brazil, South America, a true hotspot for gang violence, which makes American gangs seem like a cute little school excursion. I'm not referring to the mob from back in the day though, like they were extremely ruthless and certainly didn't care and always operating mostly in the shadow, are the ones keeping it on the low, the shots callers, and they are somewhere up there in the favela hills, and the police more often than not have absolutely no freaking idea who the boss is, el patron. That person gonna be the most low-key Brazilian citizen ever, unless of course you come in contact with that person. You might notice that they give off a slightly different vibe, which might lead you to raise your eyebrow.
Domestic violence, drug trafficking, and corruption are all widespread problems in Brazil. El Salvador. Organized crime is the major cause of social violence, with its 2 biggest gangs, MS-13 and Barrio 18, leading the scene.
MS-13, aka MS-13, claro que sí, la pandilla más conocida y peligrosa. Chances are you already heard about MS-13. That gang right there is not a joke, causing a lot of unrest, like the commentator just touched on, a lot of social unrest, which mostly stems from the unbelievable conditions of poverty you'll find in a place like El Salvador. And so the odds of an adolescent being recruited by MS-13 are very high, unfortunately.
In El Salvador, there are roughly 60,000 young people in youth gangs. 25,000 gang members who are still free, and 9,000 who are imprisoned. Numerous gangs have developed connections with drug traffickers and engaged in territorial conflicts. In addition, El Salvador has a high unemployment rate and low salaries. The most frequent crimes are thefts. Guyana has a murder rate of around 4 times higher than that of the United States and has the 7th highest crime rate in the world, 68.74. Despite strict licensing requirements for gun ownership.
Guyana, yo, that's crazy. Guyana being the super exceptional country with a distinct Caribbean culture that's linked to other Caribbean nations such as Jamaica and Trinidad because of their cultural makeup, even though they're geographically in South America. And what's particularly crazy is even though it gives off this unmistakably Anglo-Caribbean vibe, boasting all these palm trees, beautiful outdoor spaces, beaches, although their beaches aren't as beautiful as those you can find in Trinidad or Jamaica, but still, you would not necessarily expect this degree of gang activity from an outsider perspective. So that's hella interesting to see and check out all those knives and machetes. Like, them gangsters mean business. Guyana, man, we gotta be careful with you.
Despite strict licensing requirements for gun ownership, criminals frequently use firearms. Domestic violence occurs frequently in Guyana due to the lack of enforcement of its legislation. Additionally, travelers are frequently the target of hotel break-ins, robberies, and assaults.
Oh, I heard about this. So fair enough, they got their security guards outside, but still, I gotta say, it is kind of an insane sight, the way they're all geared up, like military sharpshooters. Yo, Guyana is on a different level in that regard.
Trinidad and Tobago. The crime rate of Trinidad and Tobago is the 6th highest in the world. Its government has a number of obstacles to overcome in order to reduce crime, including bureaucratic reluctance to change, narcotics, the damaging effects of gangs, economic recession, and an overworked court system. Additionally, there is a strong market for illegal weapons, which is fueled by gang and drug-related activity. Travelers should take extra precautions as Trinidad and Tobago has a level 2 travel advisory.
Yo, that's crazy, the 6th highest in the world. And it is also for that reason why I happened to stumble upon a few travel content creators on YouTube that felt some type of way about the Trinidadian justice system because they feared they're going to have bad experiences based on one particular travel vlogger, I think Chris Muslis, that unfortunately had some bad experiences while trying to create some content. So it is to be taken with a pinch of salt. Trinidad is a rough place. Don't underestimate it. Not gonna lie, they got some of the most stunning beaches you'll ever see. Amazing food, amazing culture, but their gang problem is mad serious.
Typically, visitors are the target for pickpocketing, assault, theft, and fraud. Honduras ranks 6th in the world with a crime index of 74.54. At its worst, Honduras had roughly 20 homicides per day in 2012. These crimes were typically committed by gangs with firearms like Barrio 18 or Mara Salvatrucha. Additionally, Honduras is thought to be a key gateway for drugs into the US. The country has become a convenient entry point for the illegal drug trade due to poor domestic law enforcement. The US Department of State has issued a level 3 travel advisory for Honduras.
Honduras? Who would have thunk it? I mean, sure, we all know at this point that Latin America is not Disneyland as far as their crime rates go, but Honduras, I gotta admit, Honduras was not the first country coming to mind as far as gang activities.
Recommending people to think twice before going there. Afghanistan. The nation with the 4th highest crime rate is Afghanistan. Corruption, assassinations or contract killings, drug trafficking, kidnapping, and money laundering are just a few of the many types of crime that exist there. In 2020, Afghanistan supplied 85% of the illicit opium consumed worldwide.
Afghanistan? Get out of here. The country that mostly hits the headlines about its culture of terrorism and stuff. Mind you, there's culture and there's culture. Culture is a broad terminology that includes various ingredients. There's also beautiful aspects to it, I'm sure, such as the food, the family spirit. But then again, you also got this devastating BS in a country like Afghanistan having a terrible impact on its culture, that's terrorism. And as you can see, Afghanistan isn't lacking in gangs either, as it's an Islamic country with a hardcore view on Islam due to Al-Qaeda and all these freaking terrorist groups. So that is quite unusual, because I don't even want to get into what the punishment would look like for someone committing a crime. A country where even minor offenses can have severe consequences. And so bigger gang-related crimes, I frankly don't even want to think about it.
The opium industry is such a crucial component of the country's suffering economy that it would be challenging for the Taliban to eradicate it. Despite their commitment to do so when they reclaimed control of the nation in 2021, numerous national crimes, such robbery and assault, are made more likely by widespread unemployment. South Africa. The prevalence of violent crimes is unusually high in South Africa. Numerous issues, such as extreme poverty, inequality, unemployment, social exclusion, and the normalization of violence, have been associated to this.
There we go. South Africa. Well, as a famous ancient Greek philosopher by the name of Aristotle once put it, poverty is the parent of revolution and crime. Seems to kind of go hand in hand with the recent history of South Africa in modern times, including the apartheid movement, fighting against injustice back in the day, in some ways seem to have carried on, and that aspect of it seemed to have remained in the culture and also led to the forming of gangs, and hence a lot of gang violence arising from it, which is crazy because that is not necessarily the first thing coming to mind when hearing South Africa.
One of the highest rape rates in the world is found in South Africa. In a poll conducted by the South African Medical Research Council, more than 1 in 4 men admitted to rape. Papua New Guinea. The crime index of Papua New Guinea is 80/79. Quick social, economic, and political change is the main driver of crime, particularly violent crime. Rascal gangs are primarily made up of people with limited education and few job options, and they participate in both small and large-scale criminal activity. Major cities frequently experience organized crime in the form of corruption, which significantly raises the overall crime rate. Papua New Guinea's topography also attracts traffickers of both drugs and people. Venezuela. The highest crime index in the world belongs to Venezuela at a whopping 83.76.
Well, as you can see, gangs are an international phenomenon that are only the tip of the iceberg, because it always comes down to social and economic imbalances in society, which is something politicians around the globe have failed to acknowledge and properly tackle in the past and find long-term solutions that are going to fix the real problems created through things like poverty, and actually manage to fix them in the long run, and not just take minor actions as a quick fix on the surface to gain as many new voters as possible, and then later return to the old problem because it hadn't been properly fixed in the first place. And now new gangs took over, and now everything starts from where it originally began, and it's this never-ending cycle, that catch-22 that simply just takes more involvement pointing fingers. But hey man, I ain't no hobby politician, nor am I Nelson Mandela, as you can probably clearly tell, but it is interesting nevertheless to do reactions like these, because it gives you a kind of sense for reality, which I also enjoy doing along with my other content like the music reactions and stuff. It's cool and all, and you hear all these rappers, trap and drill music artists rap about XYZ. Oftentimes, obviously, it's an act that want to make themselves appear way more dangerous and gang affiliated as they really are, to make their music sound tougher and more entertaining. But then you go ahead and see with your own eyes the real deal. Like, this ain't Hollywood. That is how it's really going down. And so I feel it's necessary, and check out what's really going on, to be more educated and be able to understand certain things on a deeper level.
The US Department of State has issued a Level 4 travel advisory, warning that it is unsafe to visit and that tourists should stay away. The high crime rates in Venezuela have been attributed to a number of factors, such as judicial system flaws, government corruption, and the breakdown of the rule of law.
Word up, y'all. I appreciate you. See you in the next one. Subscribe. Bow.